Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Monday, October 28th, and we are here for this week's episode of Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia. I'm Cecilia Sepp. I am the principal and founder of Rogue Tulips, a consulting company specializing in 501c organizations, and we also provide association management company services. Today, my usual co-host and friend, Agnes Amos-Coleman, is not available, so I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Scott Morris, who's also a member of our Rogue Tulips Consulting Network. Scott, would you like to say hello to the audience?
Yes, hello, everyone. And Cecilia, thank you very much for having me on as a guest today.
Oh, thanks for joining me. I always love talking with you. So today's topic, in honor of Halloween week, is something a bit scary, which is career transition and professional resilience. And Scott and I both have a lot of experience with this the last few years. And so I'd like to hear from Scott, what is the first thing you would recommend to somebody who's in a career transition?
I would recommend that for anyone in a career transition that he or she keep their hand and be as up-to-date in their chosen field as possible, so that when and if they are called into an interview, they can tell the prospective employer that they have been keeping up with the latest results in his or her, in their respective field. For me, I've been active in the American Society of Association Executives through holding leadership positions in their government relations section council. And I'm, like you, Cecilia, I am a certified association executive. So I've been taking courses for my recertification as well. I've also served as a board member of the Washington Area State Relations Group, which is a network organization, a networking organization of state government relations professionals. And I'm also on the planning committee of the DC Idea Swap, which is an informal organization that meets monthly for lunch, with the exception of August, to hear from experts in the association management field. And I've also been a proctor at CAE exams and a coach and mentor for CAE study groups.
Oh, that's excellent. So I have to endorse that as well and second that. You have to stay active. You have to get out there. You have to still meet people.
Right.
You have to build a unique personal brand out in the marketplace. You still need to maintain your market awareness out there. So one of the other things you can do is keep your LinkedIn profile updated.
That's
Give
correct.
yourself a good description in your title and in your profile. Don't just say seeking new opportunities, say what you do, or put in a line about what kind of job you're looking for. Also post some LinkedIn articles because it gets your name out there and people will respond to them, and it shows that you're still staying active. So I wanted to follow up with you, Scott, on the courses that you've been taking. Is there a particular course that you found you got a lot out of?
Yes. I took a course from an organization called 40 Plus of Greater Washington. It was a 6-week course. It did cost some money, but I think it was worth it because it enabled me to improve on my interviewing skills, and it enabled me to really tighten up both my resume and my cover letter. And with the interviewing skills, every Saturday we came in, my classmates and I, and there were 4 or 5 other folks in my class. We came in and went before the camera and taped our interviewing skills and performances, and were critiqued by our instructor, and that was very helpful. And we also had classes on 2 other evenings as well to really improve our interviewing skills and the way that we looked for jobs, and our networking skills as well, because networking is extremely important. You find a core group of people in your field, and you let them know what your situation is, and they'll hopefully refer you to vacancies and to other career opportunities.
Yes.
So this was extremely helpful.
And that's a great point. As we get more feedback, okay, let's hope the feedback clears up. Okay, great. It's Monday, folks. What can we say? And it's Halloween. It's probably the spirits trying to communicate from the other side a few days early. So those are all excellent points, Scott, especially about staying in touch with people. One of the things I think I did incorrectly, all right, I'll just say it wrong. It was wrong. I kind of pulled back when my career changed, when it was a very difficult situation for me. And so I kind of pulled back from people. Some of that, though, was I think I needed to start building up some scabs from the emotional trauma, which hopefully they will become scars eventually and you can move on with life. But that's probably something I probably should have stayed better in touch with people. So after a little while, I did start going out again and talking to people again. But what kind of cracked me up is how people, just like the crazy stuff people will say to you. So when Lydia Middleton and I did the professional resilience presentation in August at ASAE's annual conference, that was one of the things we talked about, is just some of the crazy stuff people will say to you. Like, I would go to lunch with people, like they say, oh, let's get together for lunch, I'll buy you lunch, and try to cheer you up a little bit. And I was, oh, that's great. So I show up for lunch and they say, well, you look good. Well, how am I supposed to look? I'm just unemployed and still me, I'm not, and you kind of wonder, am I supposed to have like big bags under my eyes or something, from not sleeping? But so that's kind of funny, those kind of things. Or, if you're trying to explain to people, well, I'm looking for my next job, I'm currently unemployed. I actually had an executive recruiter basically hang up on me. They had set up a phone interview, and when they found I wasn't currently working, they just pretty much hung up on me. They're like, oh, well, if you're not working right now, okay, well, we just wanted to talk to you, bye. And they just like hung up. And I'm just like, what? I spent like time preparing for this call. Yeah. I thought it was going to be a real phone screening. So there's that. And that's kind of hard to take too. I heard lots of different advice from people, talk to the executive recruiters, but one of the other things that we pointed out in our session in August is this. Executive recruiters have a certain model at which they base their fee for when they're doing a search. And part of that fee model is how much money you're currently making and then how much they can get you to make. So if you're not currently employed, 10% of zero is still zero. So, if you feel you're not making headway with the executive recruiters, it's not necessarily you. It's just, they have to make a living too. So don't let that put you off so much. Still talk to them if you can, if it's a job. I mean, especially if you're in a situation where you're not currently employed, try not to take it too hard. But Lydia and I did laugh a lot about how many executive recruiters called us when we had jobs and didn't need one. And then when we needed one, we couldn't get them to take our calls. So, don't be too upset about that. But do work your network. Don't shy away from working with the volunteer search committees. They do take longer. Those are good ideas. Scott had mentioned taking courses. I also did a course with Dana Theus and Shara Harrington in 2018 on thought leadership, because that's another way to make yourself stand out in the marketplace is, write something about or do a presentation about something that you consider yourself an expert in. So, for example, Scott's an expert in government relations and advocacy. So that's something that Scott can emphasize out in the marketplace and write a book maybe, or just write a series of LinkedIn articles or do a webinar. So there's lots of things like that. You really have to promote yourself a lot. And I think a lot of times we're taught to be modest, but when you're trying to promote yourself in the marketplace, you cannot necessarily be that modest.
Right.
You don't want to be a braggart, right? But one other thing about LinkedIn I wanted to mention is I found a ebook on LinkedIn called How to Find a Job on LinkedIn After 50. So if you're a person, as the French say, of a certain age, meaning you're over 35, and you're looking for some more tips, that was a great ebook that I read that I got a lot out of, and you can find it there. So Scott and I can both attest to the pressure and stress when you're looking for a job. So Scott, what's some tips you have for people to kind of handle that stress of the job search?
Well, always maintain a positive attitude and just believe in yourself and that things will work out eventually. One way that I reduce stress is to attend a workout class at my local Orange Theory Fitness because I find that working out and exercise is a great stress reducer. Whether it is running on a treadmill or rowing on a stationary boat or lifting weights or just going outside and jogging. It's a great way to not only get exercise, but to reduce the stress and give you a much really brighter outlook on things. It's really something that I believe in, and also to keep socially active as well. You can't have your mind on your job search 24 hours a day. You've got to live your life. And, whether that means getting together with friends and going to a movie or going out to a restaurant or just doing the everyday things in life that we have to do. It's, living your life, I think, is really I think the best way to get through situations that where you're in career transition.
Well, and I think that's an excellent point. We're getting the feedback again. Sorry, folks. So that's an excellent point, I think, about continuing to live your life, because no matter how much you love your career or your job, that's one part of your life. And like I always say to people, nobody ever died wishing they spent more time at the office. Or, oh, I wish I would have written one more memo or sent one more email. No, we say, wow, I really wish I could have seen Mount Kilimanjaro or gone to Europe or driven across the country, spent more time with my friends. So I think that's excellent advice, Scott. It's like, stay active, see your friends. Right. Your job is not who you are. You are who you are.
Right.
Down this week's episode because we're already down to just a few minutes left. I wanted to touch a little bit and get Scott's feedback on having a plan. Failure is an option, and failure is one of these things that's a word we don't like to say. It's probably an F word people refrain from saying more than the other F word that we're not supposed to say for FCC regulations. But, I talk about it. People say, no, you shouldn't attach your name to failure. But, failure is an option. And I say to people sometimes, I failed to retain my employment because I don't have my job anymore. So that is a type of failure. But it's not necessarily you. Sometimes we have external forces that have nothing to do with us that, it's like the tsunami that hit Southeast Asia a few years ago. It was more than a few years ago, about 10 years ago. So sometimes we have a career tsunami, and it's something that hits us, and it hits us hard, and it changes the way our life looks. But what you can do is have a plan in place about what can I do. Make sure, Scott's made some great points. I want to hear some more advice from him in a second, but make sure your resume is always current. Keep copies of the work you do. Make sure you keep up your network. Don't stop talking to people simply because you had a job. That was something I did not do on purpose, but like when I had my CEO job, I was on the road so much, I couldn't stay in touch with people. because it was almost impossible other than by email because I was always on the road. So do try to stay in touch with your friends and your network. Keep writing on LinkedIn, or if you have a blog. What are some other things you could suggest, Scott?
In order to keep active, as you said, try and write those articles. Go to seminars or webinars, or get hooked into webinars that address issues that are in your field, so that you can stay current with things and developments going on in your field. And, again, try to network with people in your field as much as possible.
These are things, I'm going to interrupt you for a second, Scott. These are things you should continue to do when you are employed. Don't wait until you're not.
Right.
So we're kind of talking about that. So please go on, Scott.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that is basically, and read books and articles as well that are relevant to what's going on in your particular area or field, and just stay current and be apprised of what's going on and what continues to go on.
That's great. And I think that is a great, the spirits are just really wanting to talk today. I think that's what that feedback is. But that is a great note to close on. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up already for today, but just to kind of summarize, and especially for our global audience, and we would also like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world watching this episode. I think a lot of this career advice is global advice. Take care of yourself, take care of your network, make sure you have everything updated, even if you're employed. And another thing I'll add in there, don't be afraid to explore other employment opportunities when you're already employed.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that. If you want to take that great leap into just leaving a job and looking for another one, I say do it, because the worst thing that'll happen is you might have to get a job at Starbucks, but you know what? Making money is not the same thing as, chasing your dream. So find a way to monetize what you know how to do. So those are some other tips. I want to thank Scott again. Scott, very quickly, I know that while we love having you as part of our Rogue Tulips network, you are also seeking perhaps a full-time job. So what kind of position are you seeking?
Well, as I said, I'm a certified association executive, so I would like to stay in the association field, and my background and experience is in state and local government affairs, and that's the type of position, either a manager or director position in that field. I've been with 2 national associations and 1 state association, and it's a very the association field is very rewarding, and I've learned a lot over the years that I've been in the association field, especially preparing for the CAE exam, and it's a field that I would like to continue in.
Great, thank you, Scott. And I can attest, again, sorry to our audience for this feedback. I have no idea where it's coming from. It's my usual equipment. I just want to, again, thank Scott for joining me today. Scott, we will
Thank you, Cecilia.
Back. You're welcome. And we'll have you back to talk about government relations in a future episode. But for today, no matter where you are, thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And want to thank Rogue Tulips for being our sponsor. Rogue Tulips supports Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia every week. We also would like to say, check out the 501c League, which is a group that Rogue Tulips supports. It's a virtual membership organization for everyone in the 501c community and the people who love them. You can learn more about Rogue Tulips at roguetulips.com. You can learn more about the 501c League at the 501cleague.net. The League is offering an ethics course for 1 CAE credit. So if you're applying for the exam or you're getting ready to renew next year, it fulfills your ethics requirement, and you receive a certificate for participation so that you can keep those AE credits tracked. So we went a little long today because it's a good topic and a good friend here with me. But I do want to say, as we always remind everyone, take 50 minutes and talk to somebody, because you never know, you might learn something. So
Right.
until next week, everyone, I want to again thank my guest and friend Scott for joining us today, and we will see you next week. Bye, everyone.